Hey guys, we're gonna get started right now. Oh, I think I'm activating me.
It's the reverb, yeah.
That means that you guys can hear us, which is great. So this is Kevin Cochran. He's from Enrich Academy. He's gonna be taking us through what I think is super important, and it is financial literacy, pretty much for realtors. One of the things that we don't necessarily learn when we're learning how to sell homes is to actually run a business and run our finances. So Kevin?
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody online, everybody here today. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity. We're going to be talking about financial wellness. I can't think of a better time than now to talk about this. This is a really big issue. If you take a look at what's going on in the world right now, clearly money is the number one topic with tariffs and so forth. And so that's why I think it's a great time to talk about this. My name is Kevin Cochran. I'm co-founder of Enrich Academy. We're a company completely focused on creating financial wellness in the Canadian marketplace. We're really the only company that I see doing this at the scale that we're doing at, which is exciting. I'm a real big passionate believer in this stuff because honestly, we're just never taught about money. Myself, after I finished high school, I was over $20,000 in credit card debt, right? Bought my first car on a credit card. You're not taught about money, right? It's ridiculous. And if you take a look at it, really, where do we have an opportunity to learn about money? We don't, right? If you take a look at it, our parents don't teach us about money because their parents didn't teach you about money. The schools don't do a really good job. They're getting better, but they're still way behind. And the banking institutions hide how money works, right? They don't want us to know how money works. It's like the worst case scenario, right? So we're kind of doomed to fail or fail to whichever way you say it. But that's kind of what we wanted to do is create a program completely focused around that. And because if you take a look at, we'll talk about it here in the presentation. Oh, turn this on. Our company, just so you know, has been featured on the show Dragon's Den. You know what I'm going to do? I don't know why it's not.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. Let me just try this for a second. Sorry about that. Let's block it in on that screen here. Hold on one second. Sorry about the miscommunication here. Let's see. I don't know. Give me 1 second here. Sorry about this. I'm going to stop sharing this for a second. Of course, it worked. Let's try that.
One of the mornings.
Yes. There we go. There we go. So we were featured on the hit Dragon's Den. Now we're actually one of the top 13 deals to ever be done on that show out of over 3,000 pitches. And that's really hard to do, right? So we were very proud of the accomplishment. We had all the dragons bid on our company, which was a really cool experience. Originally, we were a DVD set. We're not that anymore. That's what we used to sell to kids to teach kids about money. But we've created a lot more than that. At the end of the day, we had two of the dragons that we worked with. We're not working with them anymore, but we still have a very good relationship with them. Jim just helped us out a couple of weeks ago with an RCMP company because they're one of our contracts that we have. That's actually at our house in Palm Springs with Jim Living, which is kind of cool. I'm the guy on the left, just so you can see standing on a box for all these pictures because I'm pretty short. After getting on the show, the company really did explode. We have two channels in our company. Education is our first channel that we operate with. We have over 500,000 high school students a year that have to watch our program. That's never been done. So we're very, very proud of that. Hey, big guy, how are you?
Hey, sorry.
Nice seeing you. But we have over 500,000 students here that have to watch our program to graduate, which is a really, really big deal because that's never been done. That is one of the hardest things in my career that we've ever had to do is try to get your program into school systems, just with the bureaucracy and so forth. But the second channel that we have is financial wellness in the workplace. We have tons of contracts from everything from, the RCMP, the Canadian Armed Forces, real estate offices, boilermakers, iron workers, trades, athletes, OHL. That was the NHL that just called. So that was why I took that call a few seconds ago. So we work with everything and anything because it doesn't matter. You want to become an athlete, you want to become a real estate agent, you want to become a first responder, a doctor. We're not taught about money, right? And we're just not. And to me, it's criminal, right? I was just at an OHL team not long ago, the Kitchener Rangers. One of the players got signed by the Montreal Canadiens, and in front of his whole team, he goes, I got signed by the Montreal Canadiens. I said, that's great. And he goes, I got a $250,000 signing bonus. I said, congratulations. He goes, I got my first $90,000 check last week. He's saying in front of the whole team, I'm like, way to go. That is amazing. I go, were you taxed on that? And he goes, I don't know. Right? Like, think about that. Like, that to me is criminal. He's been playing hockey for 10, 15 years, gets his first check, knows nothing about it. Right? But in real estate, it's no different, right? I look at your world, right? You got like you're first of all, you're working for a phenomenal office with it, like totally endorses training, whether it's the Rich Rod Buffini's, whatever it is, you're out there pushing it. And that stuff's critical to building your business. I don't care how long I've been 15 years, 20 years, take it. Till you retire, you should be taking sales training. Right? It helps you not cut commissions, it helps you spend less time with buyers. And that stuff, that's what that stuff does. That's what Richard Robin Buffini fight for all the fairies and all them that like what they do. But one thing they don't talk about is managing money, right? Which is insanity, right? And we're going to be talking about that here today, right? So, really, what we want to do is make my financial freedom accessible to everyone. That's our goal. Our biggest selling feature is that we don't sell anything, nothing, zero. I'm not here to push you into buying mutual funds. We don't sell any financial products whatsoever. We never have, we never will. And that's hard because our company, we've been offered 6-figure checks by banks saying, let's put a logo here, just click this button. We won't do that, right? We want to remain fully unbiased. So we don't sell anything. We don't collect your data, right? And so whether it's getting out of debt, buying your first investment property, planning for retirement, this guy right here, we're not marriage counselors. I want to be clear about that. But this guy here is a real estate agent for in Newmarket. And he's like, you saved my marriage. And he goes, we're constantly not happy. Right. And every time we came home, we just couldn't find a happy party. And again, what we were able to do is control their finances without earning more money, which is exciting, right? So not that we're against earning more money. As an entrepreneur, the number one job of every entrepreneur is to figure out what problem are you going to fix. Well, this is the number one problem we're dealing with right now. Every benefit study shows that the number one stress Canadians have right now is money. It tops the list, every one of them, right? They actually worry more about money than their own personal health. Right, it is that much of an issue. It's what's waking us up at 3 a.m. Like, man, can I pay my bills? Can I, make it in this world? Can I retire one day? Can I put my kids through school? Whatever it may be, and that responsibility just kind of keeps weighing down on us. It affects our immune system, it affects our mindset, and so forth, right? And so we're going to be talking about that stuff here today a little bit too. We always say there's 4 buckets people fall into when it comes to money. Not my business to know what bucket you're in, but it's important to know what you're in. I know that some people watching here today are in debt, right? And that's okay. It's not my business to know. But if you're in debt, listen, all we're trying to do is not make it a life sentence. We're not here to judge. Half of Canadians are there right now, right? If you're younger in the business, 100%. If you're new to the business, it's kind of weird. Or if you're younger, like we have so many bills up front. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to, start your life and buy a car and pay off student debt or whatever it may be, buy your first home, and you're making the least amount of money. But if you're in your 40s and 50s and you're still in debt, we need to have a course correction. And we're not here to judge because millions of Canadians are there, right? So the second bucket is paycheck to paycheck. This is a volatile place to be, as we all know, because if you were paycheck to paycheck back in 2020, you're certainly in debt now because of inflation. I know some people are saving and investing money. They don't know what their money is doing, right? I mean, we had a lady come to one of our programs a few years ago. She had $1 million with her financial advisor. And I said, great, what are you paying them? She goes, I don't pay them, the bank does. I go, no, they're absolutely paying. You're paying them. She didn't know. We had one lady come to our program as a real estate agent, I think with Cola Banker in the Toronto area. And she's like, yeah, she goes, I got divorced 10 years ago. We split our assets. She goes, I have $115,000 in RSPs. I said, oh, great. I'm like, so what are you invested in? She goes, RSPs. Right? Like she didn't know. And it was sitting in cash value for 10 years. Like, no, this is the stuff that we see all the time. So even people with money don't know what their money is doing, right? And some people are actually doing everything great. They're like, listen, I got $25,000 sitting in a bank account. I don't even know what to do with it. I'm afraid to ask the right question. I don't even know what to do or what direction. And these are the 4 buckets that we're here to help people kind of navigate, right? As I mentioned earlier, half of Canadians live paycheck to paycheck. I was asked this question a few months ago to a real estate office, which I always ask these questions and always gets the same answer. But I asked, if your income was to stop today, there's about 80 people in the room. If your income was to stop today, how long could you maintain your current lifestyle? And one real estate agent got up, he said like 3:30 until 3:30 this afternoon, right? And I always kind of laughed. And prior to this career, I had a business that I helped build, Dominion Lending Centers, which has been a phenomenal business. One of the people that started that company, and then before that was Richard Robbins, right? And I was there for 6 years, and the sales training company. And I look at Rich Robbins and I said, Rich Robbins taught me a lot about selling, but the one thing he really taught me, he goes, one of the best weapons a real estate agent can have is money in the bank. right? It is like your customers know when you need to make money, right? They can smell it on your breath. It's called commission breath. Like nothing takes that stank out, right? You got to have money in that bank, right? Because as soon as you walk in, you just walk in with a different aura, a different cloud. We're going to talk about that. I don't know if a lot of you know that 47% of divorces are caused by marriage, right? It's a really big issue. Marriage, you gotta end that stuff, you know. But again, you know, if anybody's ever known anybody go through a divorce, they don't just leave that stuff at home, right? It's not like, you know, and then come to work totally productive. No, they're disengaged, they're distracted, and understandably so, right? When you're not happy at home, it's tough to be happy anywhere else, right? And again, this is why so many businesses have invested into Enrich Academy, because they realize they have tons of lost productivity due to money challenges. Right, the cost of a lost employee because they go to across the street to make more money. We deal with like we just signed on 2 new Fortune 500 companies because of that. They're like, yeah, no, there's a huge cost. We get it, right? You know, a lot of distracted workers, more sick days, and so forth, right? With employees, really, again, this is the kind of stuff that we hear all the time from real estate agents that we worked with. A lot of people come up to us and say, money's complicated. I don't get it. And money's not really complicated. It's just a language you've never been taught, right? You know, you guys have been taught the language of real estate, right? So you guys understand how it all works, right? But it's like, you know, in high school, you got to take French to a certain level, to a certain degree to get a baseline understanding. Well, when it comes to money, it's no different. And here's the weird thing is I've met, you know, 16-year-old kids that know more about money than 50-year-old doctors. This kid's in our program. He's from London, Ontario, right? At 16 years old, he bought his first investment property. At 21, he owned 6, right? And people, how did he do it? His parents lent him money. I go, he did how any hardworking 16-year-old would, right? He went door to door selling weed. He became the number one weed salesperson in London, Ontario.
Yeah,
But it's not how he did it, right? So this is why you get money so funny, right? It's how you make it work. But no, he actually went door to door selling meat and saved enough money, and he just knew how to use that money properly to leverage and buy another property and so on and so forth, right? And my whole point is that 16, he has a better dialogue or understanding of that language of money than most 50-year-old doctors do, right? And because we think the older we get, we just kind of pick it up. It just doesn't work that way. Right, like money never stands still. We've just built this into our new pitch. Actually, when we talk pitch companies, look at the last 10 years of what like money challenges and what we've dealt with in Canada. Unlimited immigration, really, right? Free money on printing, lowest interest rates we've ever seen, right? Then all of a sudden, high inflation that we haven't seen. Now that interest rates went up, and now now tariffs. It just never stands still because we're going to get through this. Like what most people don't realize, one of the best times to buy stocks right now. It's like stocks are on sale. We're going to talk about that. Right? This will get through. It will. But guess what? In about 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to get hit by a comet, right? And then that's going to go fine. And then we're going to be attacked by aliens. And every 3 to 5 years, we tend to get hit by something we've never seen before, whether it's a disease or financial crisis or .com boom. Like that's just what this does. And this is when some of the biggest wealth transfers take place is now, right? And we just kind of have to step away from it. This has been 3-4 days. And people are like, is there going to be another couple months of this stuff? Probably statistically based on how markets crash, right? And, you know, there's tons of opinions on why that's happening. Some people think he's pre-doing this because, you know, there's a midterm election coming up in a couple of years. They anticipate the markets were going to cool down. So do it now, preemptively before midterm. I don't know. I have no idea. If anybody tells you they know, they don't know. I have no more idea than anybody else, right? All I know is that there's ways to manage this risk, and we're going to talk about that quickly today. But believing more money will solve your financial stress. Like a lot of people think the more money I make, the more money I have. Just not true, right? We work with tons of athletes. Like when that NHL call that I just took, it was because of a player I'm trying to deal with right now that, you know, he's calling us. It's just tough to get in touch with him. But he's earned $17 million in his career, 17 US million in his career. He's retired. And he's living in his second wife's, that's 17 US. That's what, 25 million Canadian roughly. He's living in his second wife's mom's basement, right? Earning $2,500 a month working at a hardware store with a $1,500 a month car payment, right? Like, you know, like that's the kind of stuff we deal. So again, just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean you have a lot of money, right? You know, Major League Baseball players file for bankruptcy 4 times higher than national average. 6 out of 10 NBA players under financial stress within 5 years of retirement. But when you look at just even the common real estate office, and I know that you can't, I don't care what real estate company it is, it's true. I'll walk into a real estate company and you'll see one agent making $120,000 a year, another one making $250 a year. And more times than not, the one making $120 has a higher net worth than the one making $250, right? I see it all the time, right? And, you know, and what it's just, and the challenge, I'll meet an agent making 120 is like, it's not enough money. I'm freaking out. I need to make more money. Right. And what happens is they double their income, but then they double their debt. And instead of being, 2 years behind on their taxes, now they're 3 years behind on their taxes. Right. They're living on commission in advance. Like we see this, right? Paying 2022 taxes right now in 2020, it's not normal. Right? They're giving more money than you need to. But we see this everywhere we go. And the best analogy I can give you is imagine you go to the gym, right? Like that's how I go. I imagine it. It's not effective. You don't have to wake up in the morning. But imagine you go to the gym and ask you to lift 120 pounds and you can't. You're like, I can't lift 120 pounds. It's too heavy. If you can't lift 120, could you lift 250? Right? And you already know you can't. And if I can't lift that, you can't lift that. I promise if you can't manage that, you certainly can't manage that. I know you can. Like I'm not against making more money. Like it's good for you. It's good for your business. But if you think that's going to get you out of debt, it never does. It never does. I mean, we had one of the top Remax agents up on stage a few years ago. I don't want to mention the name, but he was up on stage, which anyways, the point being is that this guy has made tons and tons and tons of money. But he self-admitted, he's like, yeah, if I honestly, and you probably all know who he'd be. He goes, if I don't earn money in the next month, I can't pay my bills. Right. And this guy's been around for a while. Right. And you take a look at it and go, like, that's one of the saddest stories of real estate. Right. It doesn't need to be that way. Right. And again, that's my whole point is imagine you built a house and the foundation is weak and you add more weight, it just crumbles in within itself. And that's what I mean. If you can't have a strong foundation of money and adding more money, like I'll double my income, great, but then you're going to be in more debt. I promise you. I guarantee it. Right. You got to learn how to manage what's in front of you, then add more money. That's the way to do it. Right. The next is this: don't drive premium cars. I don't know, right? Like, this is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to real estate agents. Like, I look at it and, if let's just say everybody watching right now or here today, imagine I told you, listen, I got a stock and it's $100 a share. Like, you got to buy it right now. It's unbelievable. And if you buy it right now, I guarantee you'll lose 30% right away. And on top of that, it's never going to go up in value again. You're just going to constantly lose money. Would you buy that stock? Like, you wouldn't. You're like, I'm not going to give away 30% of my money. Well, that's buying a brand new car, right? So you're giving away 30% of your money, right? That you'll never get back. It's always losing value, but that first year is the worst year when it comes to value. Right. And that's the biggest challenge. Like, there's a brand new pickup truck for $85,000. We found the exact same truck a year old with 12,000 kilometers for $58,900. Right. It's just true. Right. But I read this in a magazine somewhere, so don't quote me on it. But did you know you're actually allowed to keep a car for more than 4 years? Like, a lot of people don't know that. Like, they think, no, legally, you got to get rid of your car every 4 years. And that's what we do because that's what everybody else does in this business. Right. Well, no, it's crazy. Because what happens is we'll buy a car, we'll pay it off. Right. And then we're like, man, no car payment. This is the best. Right. And then about, a few months later, since it's a used car, it has some repairs, like I need new tires. Well, that's stupid. Like, it's $1,000 for a set of tires. It has new tires. This $60,000 car, then we're going to do it again. And then, but here's the thing, because I hear stuff all the time by real estate agents. They're like, well, we can write stuff off. Well, guess what? You know what's better than a tax write-off? Like, no fucking car payment. That's awesome. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we sell ourselves on this stuff. Right. Dominion Lending Center is just sold for it's worth $600 million. Right. It's like an unbelievable day. I actually just cashed out my shares and people go, what kind of car do you drive? Just till a few months ago, I had a 2010 Ford F-150 pickup. I had to sell it because it was just it was just too beyond. I had an emergency brake cable hanging and all this stuff. I probably took it too far. My wife's like, you're taking this too far. Right. But it was a 2010 Ford F-150 pickup with 275,000 kilometers, just sold it. Right. Got rid of it. Just, I couldn't keep it any longer. Right. And my whole point being is that people like, you can write stuff off. I can, but I just rather have no car payment. And I know, Ryan, you will relate to this. You'll see real estate agents go to these Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, Richard Robafini events, and they're like, come out motivated. Like, yes, I'm going to do it. This is the year. I'm going to get that assistant that I've always been thinking about. I'm going to put that marketing plan together that I've always been talking about. Yes, and then they walk out, and all of a sudden, like, man, but I got a lot of bills. I don't know if I can afford it. And then they take their fob out, bloop, bloop, and they go to their car into 2013 BMW supercharged something or other, $3,000 car payment with got deep fryers in the car. Like, it's like they're overcarring. Like, you know what I mean? And people have asked in my career, like when I worked at Richard Robbins, I was making $250,000 a year, and this is 2003, and that's a lot of money to make for a 25-year-old. But I left that to start with Dominion and make nothing, zero, right? Nothing. Like, and I made nothing for 3 years. That's just what a new business is. If anybody tells you anything different, they're lying. It takes time to build a business, right? And then I left, and then obviously graduated into this. I wouldn't say I never left it, but graduated to this. People always ask like how I can take a lot of risks in my career is because I don't have a high overhead. I never have. Right? Like I live in the same house I bought in OA for $435,000. Right? When I go vacations, they're the best vacations. I always do nice stuff. So it's not like I just sit there and eat canned tuna every day. Like, but I mean, I try not to bury myself in ridiculously high like handcuff payments forever and ever and ever. Right? You know what I mean? I'm going on a wonderful trip in a few months, and because I can afford to do that, but I don't overhouse and I don't overcar, right? And that's critical, right? I own a bunch of real estate, but I don't over personal house, right? I just don't, right? And I don't want high payments. That's critical. How about manage? Watch out what for those of you that are saving and investing money. What are you doing with your money, right? Because most of you get your financial statements. It looks like this. You can't read it. They don't want you to be able to read it. Like that's what I mean. The banks don't want you to know this. Like people like the banks are teaching us about money. No, their job is to sell you as much as you can of their money as they can, with you knowing the least amount about it. If anybody tells you anything different, they're lying, and that's okay. It's the system. I own bank stock. It's great. The average return for the average bank in Canada over the last 20 years, if you bought stock, it's like 16 or no, it's not true. It's about 14.5%. It's unbelievable, right? So, meanwhile, they're pitching you to put their money into the savings account at 1.5%. But anyways, language of money. We call it the language of money, right? So, what people don't realize is like every industry does this. This is the top 4 leading causes of death in the United States a few years ago, according to John Hopkins, was heart disease number 1, cancer number 2, iatrogenic causes number 3, and respiratory disease number 4. The 3rd leading cause of death, like 700 people a day die of iatrogenic causes. Anybody know what it is that hasn't seen the program before? It's doctor of medical error. It's like botched surgery, bad prescription, whatever it may be. Leave the op, whatever it may be, whatever it is. But why do they call it that? Because it sounds better than Dr. Fuck Up. Like they'd rather you not know, right? Well, it's the same thing in the financial world. They have something called an MER, right? And what means management expense ratio. It's just a really complicated word way of what you guys would call a commission. When you go to list a property, what do they ask? They don't ask what your MERs are. They ask, hey, what's your commission? What are you charging? Right? It's a fair question to ask. Like, what are you charging? I'd like to know what I'm paying. Well, this is like one of the most like greasiest worlds out there, if you ask me, when it comes to disclosing how much you actually pay. Because what most people don't realize, because we have trillions of dollars of our money in mutual funds in Canada that are eating up literally 40% of our money, right? It's crazy. This is a REMAX manager from the Mississauga area. It wasn't your office. I think it was another REMAX. Well, I know it certainly was. But she was 45 years old at the time when she came to her program. This is a few years ago. We're going back 6-7 years ago. She'd earned $350, maybe she was Milton. Anyways, around the West End. $350,000 she had invested, and she was in our coaching program. And after we worked with her, she realized her MER, her fees were 2.7%. So you're talking about, she's like, at first she's like, that's great. I'm making 97%. They make free, so they got to make money too. No, what's 2.7% of 350,000?
10 grand. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 grand a month. Sorry, 20 grand a month, a year. And she had no idea. And we said, just so you know, let's just say you want to retire at 65 at a 6% return. If this 350 grew at a 6, that's a 1.1 million. She's great. But you have to tack on that fee at 2.7%. So you're going to end up with 670,000. Your fees are $452,000 that go to the mutual fund, the financial advisor, the brokerage, and you. 4 people want to get paid. She didn't know. Right? And it's like, imagine you list a home to a real let's say you have a customer, they have $1 million home paid off completely, and you list the property and you sell it for $1 million in 2 days, like one of those great ones, and then the customer gets a check for $600,000. Well, what do you mean? The home's for $1 million. Well, yeah, I thought it was 3%. I thought it was going to be 3,000. No, that's what we don't understand, and they don't want you to understand it, right? This is like, it's like a casino, right? It's ridiculous, right? And again, in our program, we do talk about stuff like this, right? How to read your financial statement. What are these like? If you have any of this stuff written in your financial statement, deferred sales charges are no longer even allowed, but you are grandfathered in because they stopped them in 2022. But anybody that had that, you'd be locked in for 5 to 7 years on your mutual funds, huge fees to get out. Low loads are still around. They're like a deferred sales charge, but instead of being locked in 5 to 7, you're locked in 2 to 3 years, front end, back end loaded. All this stuff means stuff. Right. And again, this is when we look at our financial statements, when you go to our program, we do a full diagnostic on this stuff. Because this is our retirement. And we don't understand how it works. right? But that's what I mean. There's so many better options that exist out there. Again, I have no relation. I don't use myself manage my money, but you've got the Wealth Simples out there that exist. You got the Quest Trades. Like if you have over under $500,000, which I think is, by the way, no matter if you, I don't care if you have $100. Like if you're saving and you're in the right direction, good for you. But anything under $500,000, like these are way better options than most of the banks. The banks will say, go to the branch, go to that office, and that person's just selling you mutual funds. Right? That's really how it works.
So
Yeah.
you're saying like the Quest Trade, those programs are better than doing this because that allows you to control it more yourself?
Well, it's just the fees are way lower.
Okay.
Right. And so again, that's just the truth because that's what they got to do. They got to make money. The banks are slowly adjusting because they're losing that rate, right? Which they need to, right? But for years and years and decades, they've been just gouging Canadians with these high mutual fund fees. And most people have no idea, right? We're going to work every day because I really believe the reason why we go to work every day is so that we create a world that we don't need to go to work every day. Right.
Yeah.
But like, I'm so passionate about this part of the program because I really was $20,000 in debt. And then I got out of that. Then I saved my money and I saved $150,000, which took me a couple years to do. Right. And then I asked a mentor of mine who his financial advisor was, not knowing he was a great business owner, he knew nothing about money. And he advised me his advisor, and I gave that lady $150,000. And 8, 9, 10 years later, I ended up with 142. Right, because it was locked into this stuff. Oh, you want to get out of this? No problem. It's not like the returns weren't there, but the fees were so big they ate up all my returns. And then if I wanted to cash out, there's huge penalties to get out. And my whole point being is that what took me 12 years to understand, like between getting out of that debt and this, within the last 10 seconds, just the first question I would ask, do you have deferred sales right? I don't want it. What it took me 10 years to figure out, you just figured out in 10 seconds. And that's what I love about money. Right, it's just like you understand it, and now you can have a level the playing field when it comes to this, right? But we're never taught about this anywhere, not at all. It's like it's crazy, right? As I said, the schools are getting better. They're still way, way, way behind, right? This is not a priority for them. Many other things are, right? Anyways, people are asking, what about the markets right now? Well, let's historically look at crashes, right? This is I just added this in this morning because I was like, it'd be timely. This is every crash since 1957. Like COVID was actually one of the quickest crashes right there, 31 days, right? Then the markets obviously hit a negative 34%. What are we in right now when it comes to our market crash, right? 5 days into it, 6 days, everybody's crapping their pants. I'm like, okay, no worries. How long it took to get back to the top? Took about 150 days to get back, right? And here's the best part. Look at the return over the next 12 months. It's unbelievable, right? Have you ever watched those videos in the United States for Black Thursday? Like, and everybody's beating the shit out of each other for like $100 TV.
Better than the UFC.
Yeah, exactly. 100% better than the UFC. And here's the weird thing is that sale happens every year, right? That happens every year that happens. This sale happens every 4 to 5 years. Like, this is not a regular occurrence, right? This was going to happen no matter what, whether Biden or Trump, we were going to have a correction. Just historically, that's what happens every 4 or 5 years, right? I'm not saying one is better than the other. That's just the truth. There has to be a cool down, right? There has to be. That's just what the markets always do. So again, you take a look at it, every 3 to 5 years, the markets tend to correct themselves. The average loss is about 30%, which we're not far off right now. The average bear market lasts about 364 days, and we're day 5. Like, and they're, oh my gosh, oh my! It's like I don't know.
I took your course a couple years back, and I actually brought this up on my Monday Mindset yesterday.
Yeah.
Through COVID, you guys taught me about dollar cost averaging.
Yeah.
Right. So keeping in. So COVID hits, and I'm like, I'm going to pretend like I don't even know what's happening because I remember your slide back from that 2-day course in Markham. You had that, I think it was the same one you just had up.
Yeah.
Like with every downturn, it's almost like a similar upswing within 2 years, right?
Yeah.
I think the quote was like within 2 years, most financial crashes are corrected.
Yeah.
So I just kept putting in during COVID, and it was like the very best thing that ever happened to my stock portfolio, right?
And here we go again.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Now's the time to buy.
Now it's time to slowly keep
Slowly
adding
buy.
every month.
Yeah.
Add some, yeah.
And guess what? If you go up,
You said you had it automated.
Yeah.
I was like,
It was just
wow.
automated. It just
Yeah.
comes out of my account.
So you don't even have the emotion attached.
Set
to
it and forget it. Yeah.
well, that's the problem. Is everybody emotionally purchases it, right? And I get it because you feel like when the markets crash, you're the only person's bank account that's low.
Mm-hmm.
There's millions and millions and millions and millions of people in the same day waking up with the same problem, right? But you feel like it's just you, like you're the only one getting that financial statement. Well, you're not, right? It's just everybody's going through it. again, I think whether Biden or Trump was in charge, there's going to be a correction no matter what. This is probably much sooner than it would have happened, but there's probably some strategy behind it. Clearly, there's strategy. Whether it works or not, who knows? I always let time figure it out, right? We're 5 days into it, so let time figure it out because I have no idea. But 100% of the bear markets are followed by bull market. Bear markets are followed by bull markets, and that's what we're dealing with right now. It's always like, COVID. Oh my gosh, and the 5 most expensive words of any crash that people say is like, this time it is different, right? And this time it's different. This time it's different. Oh, COVID, this rattle the world. This time it's different. Financially, this time it's different. .com, this time. Oh, this is Trump. He's crazy, right? The tariffs, this time it's different, right? Like, oh, it's just another thing that's happened, right? And again, just to speak to exactly what you brought up, we're going to talk about this because this is the essence of time to use this, right? It's interesting. Let's just say if I was to give you two funds, right, to look at, and one's volatile and the other one's not as volatile, right? So you have let's say $1,000 per year to put into one of these two funds. So $5,000 you're going to put into this fund. You're going to put $1,000 year one, so you're going to buy 10 shares, and you're going to buy 20 shares the next year. Even though the market, oh man, I bought these shares at $100. Now I've lost my money, but now it's $50. Now you're like, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to buy another $1,000 worth of shares. So you buy 20 shares there. Then the next year, the stock goes up a little bit better, so it goes to $60 a share. So you can put another $1,000. You buy some more, another $1,000 there, another $1,000 there. So the stock never actually went over $100. That's your first one you could choose from. The second one is that you put $5,000 into this, you put $1,000 into there, and the next year it grows again. The next year grows again, put another 1,000. Next year grows again. The next year grows again. So you put 5,000, 1,000 each year. In the first one, 5,000, 1,000 each year in the second one. Which fund do you think is better? That has to see, you would know which one it is, but which one do you think it is? Fund one, the volatile one, or the one that consistently went up? Which one do you think
Well,
it
I
is?
figure this is a trick question.
Sure is, right? So fund one
Can't
is
wrap my
actually
head around
worth, yeah. Well, what it is you're buying the down and then the increases, right? So like you bought the stock at $50 and then it increased, like again, you're buying the down, right? Well, you're talking about a substantial difference here, which again, it rests in regular amounts on a consistent basis, which is what's happening right now. Dollar cost averaging, which is exactly what Ryan just brought up, is a way to have the volatility of the market work for you. And what happens when the market crashes, which is what we're dealing with right now. This is interesting. So this is, do you know what the S&P 500 is? What the 500 represents?
Standard & Poor 500
Yeah.
best companies
Yeah, the top 500
in the
companies.
United States.
You got it, right? So it's a revolving list. That's what it is. That's why it's a market indicator. So if you ever watch the news and the S&P 500 is up, that means U.S. economy is doing well. If it's down, that means the U.S. economy is not doing great. Well, the average return over the last 20 years has been 8.2%. That's been the average return on the S&P 500. But let's just say if you're like, I'm going to time the market. I'm not going to buy anything right now because I'm going to wait for the market to bottom because nobody knows what's going to happen. So let's just say if you just happen to miss the top 10 trading days over those 20 years, your returns drop in half because nobody knows. Like that's why I don't watch the news ever when it comes to investing. You'd never buy anything. I remember when back in 2015 there were some condos. Or did anybody remember what the people were saying about the condo market in Toronto back in 2015? There are too many of the economists have unanimously said, and the condos at Yonge and Eglinton were for 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I was buying them for $450,000, wrapped around deck, 800 square feet. $450. They're still worth about $859 now at a high 1.1. But I wouldn't have bought them if I listened to the news, right? I don't listen to it because honestly, these economists, when they're making $100,000 a year, they don't have any more idea than you or I do. Just don't know. Oil prices are going to go up and go down. Interest rates are going to stay up. No, they don't. Nobody knows. And that's why you just don't get emotionally attached to it by watching the news. All you can do is follow strategies that have worked, tried, tested, and true, be patient, and not get caught up in the emotion of it, right? Because again, yeah, go ahead.
So I don't know if this is a Q&A, but I honestly, that was a hard one to wrap my head around. So does that concept mean if you had $365, you got 365 days a year, it's better to invest $1 every day than 360 once every year?
Yeah, kind of like this. So I'll show it to you in a diagram. This is a really great question. Is that so? Let's just say this in 2008, the markets crashed by 37%. It happened fairly quickly, right? Because the world almost ran, or United States almost went bankrupt. But let's just say you had $100,000 to invest, right? And you put that $100,000 just a few months before that crash, right? Well, what you would have seen is that, and then the markets crash and kind of rebuild. Well, over 3 years, you started with 100,000 just before the crash. It dropped, but then it rebounded a little bit. You'd end up with about $91,000. That makes sense. So you'd be down about 9.2%. But let's just say you take that same $100,000, But instead of putting it all in at once, what you do is you put them in intervals every quarter, $8,300, right? Well, you're talking about the same market, like Ryan was just exactly saying, is that, oh my gosh, the markets are down. No, like this is crazy. It's different this time. Trump's a psycho. The COVID's gonna murder everybody. Like all that stuff, right? You know what I mean? You just keep dealing with that. But then eventually, you know what? You just keep buying the down, then you keep buying the up. Same market, same amount of money. Instead of being down 9.2%, you'd be up 20%. And you're talking about a difference of 28%. So that's exactly what people should be doing right now, right? You know, and if it doesn't work, then we're all screwed anyways.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So you're not alone, right? We think I'm the only one that's gonna, no, we're all screwed, right? So forget it. So don't worry about it, right? So this is the only way to manage this. And this is, look at any crash, as Ryan said, in history. Following this strategy, it would have worked. And that's why you should be jacked about it. This is when, right now is when it's happening. This happened, like this won't happen again. What are we in 2025 right now? Or maybe 2030, right? So this is it. You know, during your career, you might get, well, let's say you work 40 years, right? So you have 4 decades, it may happen 2 times 4, 8, 9 times in your career. This is one of them, right? Here we go. So this is when the wealth transfers take place, right? So again, one of the biggest stressors when it comes to money, obviously, I really believe in this industry, which I think is this very fixable problem, is that a lot of real estate agents exchange time for money, right? They just do. They just exchange time for money. They go to work, come back, make money, go to work, come back. And the problem is that when you're young and full of piss and vinegar, it's fantastic. But as you get older, I'm 48, you can start burning out, anxiety, fear. Like, I can't keep doing this year after year and just go every January, start all over again and do this all over again. What we need to do is try to figure out a way to get out of it that doesn't revolve in us doubling down the strategy that doesn't work. Because somebody's like, I don't have enough money, I got to rebuild my life. Well, then I'm going to sell more homes next year. I'm going to work harder, right? Well, working harder is not the strategy to get out of this, right? What you need to do is figure out a way to become more productive and get your money to work for you, because this is what most real estate agents' incomes look like, right? And the hours they work is the white line. Sorry, the yellow line, and the white line represents how much money they make. And hey, the more harder I work, the more money they make. But as soon as they stop doing that, their income starts to drop, right? It just starts to slow down, and that's what we don't want. Because really, what you should be aiming for is this, right? The older you get, your income continues to grow, but you get to slow down a little bit. Like, people will ask me, like, I don't need to work. I'm done. Like, it's like fantastic. I never won't stop. And let me tell you one of the best things that. And I'm not bragging about driving fancy cars or living in big homes. It's nothing like that. It's not like, hey, you know what, get in a jet with me. I'm not trying to sell that lifestyle, right? If you want that, great. It's just not for me, right? I'm trying to say, listen, just keep your overhead low, right? Don't drive fancy cars. Buy a car every 10 years, whatever you need to do. But you know, the best thing about this type of lifestyle is you have the right to fire people out of your life. Like, that's why I'll never retire. Like, calling Ryan's like calling a buddy. It's like, hey man, I haven't talked to him, how's it going? He's always supportive. Like, I only work with people I like to work with, right? I've had to work with a ton of people I didn't like to work with for decades, right? You have to put dirt under your nails. We've all done it, right? It sucks, but just have to deal with that crappy stuff. But you get to a point where you're just gonna let people out of your life. And then all of a sudden you just, like, there's no retirement because it's just calling people you like. And that's just what you do, right? I'm not doing 45 meetings in this town, right? I'm doing a couple that I like. We have a big event coming up. It's great. And that's what we're talking about. It's like, it's really, really exciting. Yeah. So, this is what I will say about real estate as well. Is like, I look at your world, and I mean this. It's like, if you put a solid decade into this world, like with a few months education, you make more money than a doctor. And I mean this. It's like, if you put a hard 10 years into this, hard 10 years, like, work your butt off, like, don't overcar, don't overhouse, just, you know, don't go on ridiculous vacations, just do what you need to do for this decade. Money shouldn't be your biggest issue anymore. It just shouldn't. I know it shouldn't. I promise you. Like, all the nice stuff is waiting for you at the other end. And people go, am I too old? Did I miss my market? No, you haven't. The goalposts changed a little bit, but you put a hard decade into this, man. Money should not be a big issue for you. It just shouldn't be. I know it shouldn't. Right. And because it's there, you're working for the right company. Honestly, I would not work for any other company in this town other than you. I wouldn't. Like, you're amazing. And I say, well, I mean,
Checks in the mail.
well, there you go. I don't get paid to do that. I don't get paid, but I don't care, because I can now say stuff like that, because I just look at, I walked in, Charlie, what did I say when I came in? You're like, fully,
Beautiful office.
I was like, this office is gorgeous. Like, you know what I mean? The events that you guys put on all the time, all the stuff that you do. Like, this is the time to double down. Like, you got the training environment that you need. You got beautiful offices, right? I know the markets are correct. It'll get better, right? You know what I mean? This is the time just to stomach all this stuff, get through it, keep your costs low, and this should validate everything I'm saying. Because when the markets slow down, you're like, oh my God, I got a $10,000 a month car payment and a mortgage that's drowning me. Like, no, like it's okay. It's okay. Right? Because there's no car, there's no trip, there's no vacation, there's no house that feels better than waking up and not worrying about money. Right? And you know what? Like as I said, I've met people that live in $1 million homes that are miserable. I've met people that live in smaller homes and are happier than anything else, right? So just don't get caught up in that stuff, right? I'm not saying don't make money, go out there and make as much as you can. I'm not against it, but as I said, you got the right office, right? Still the right country. I know it's not perfect, like it's gonna get better, right? All these things are gonna get better, right? So just stomach this stuff, but you have to train yourself. Keep going with that Mike Ferry to Buffini, Richard Robbins, whatever you're taking, can you take it? But complement it with this stuff. Like this is critical stuff that you should be doing. Like or else, like, yeah.
And when you are coaching agents on this, the single best return to start to see that time deviate from the money. Like I know you guys get into real estate investing, obviously is one of them. Mortgages, private mortgages.
Yeah, amazing stocks. Like those, that's a top throw. That's the lowest hanging fruit, right? Like you know, you can Google 21 ways to make a passive income. Like you know, you're in real estate. And the 3 best ways to do it, if I'm sitting in your shoes, is own investment properties. Number 2, buy dividend paying stocks or stocks, whatever your plan is. And number 3 is look at mix mortgage investment corporations, private lending, first and second mortgages. Right, like it's amazing.
Like doing it yourself, probably like you've mentioned, or
like the first time you do it, you'll wish you did it ages ago.
100%.
Yeah.
but that comes with capital. Like you got to be in a position where you have.
Yeah, but like the first one I did, I lent 40K. 8%. And so 40K at 8%, I think I can't remember what the payment was based on, what amortization, but I was getting $800 a month and about $1.50 of the first payment went to principal.
Yeah. And then
by the end of the year, $40 of that 800 was going to principal. So I actually got back more than I loaned the guy because of the lender fee I took.
Yeah.
They discount how much you actually lend them based on a lender fee. And so I got back pretty much all 80,000 of it. And I'm like, wait a second. Like I just got 800 times 12 for that, or sorry, it was 40,000. 800 times 12 and almost no cost to me other than the interest to carry that or the opportunity cost on the money. Right. So it's a genius thing. Once you see what the bank's doing to us, you kind of want to be the bank. Right.
Well, it's like owning investment property without owning an investment property, right? Like, you know, if you own, like, let's say if you own investment property and the sink breaks, right? And you know, you're getting that call or your property managers, right? But like if you own a house and your sink breaks, do you call the bank that owns the mortgage on the house? Like, you know what I mean? Hey, TD, my sink is overflowing. You're like, I don't care. Just give us our money, right? Right. And that's right. But again, when it comes to lending in first and second mortgages, you got to just know what you're doing, right? But again, it's not an overly complicated thing. You look at the loan to value on the property. You're the bank. They're the ones that pay for all the appraisals and all that stuff. It's like you're the bank. You're the lender, right? So it's an amazing thing to do if that's for you, right? But you're in the world. Like I'd be doubling down. Like I remember when being in the mortgage world, at first I judged private lending. I'm like, oh, well, that's what do you do in the back of a van? I'm like, no, I'm going to be curious. And I went out and just studied it for a couple months, went out and took mortgage brokers out for lunch and found out how they did it. And then all of a sudden mortgage brokers started sending me mortgages to fund. And I looked at the ones I liked and the ones that send me really good ones. And once a year you take them for a night at the Ritz in Toronto and a Blue Jays game because you're making money and let them do a Leaf game or whatever it is. And you reward those referrals. You get more and more of them come out. And next thing you realize you've got, you know, if you have equity in your property, you can make your mortgage, home equity line of credit tax deductible by doing that. If you do it properly, like all these things exist. And I'm a high school dropout. Like I did 47% in math, right? Like, and I understand this because it's not that difficult. It's really just talking about interest rates, right? That's it. And again, our course will teach you how to do all that stuff. That's what we do, right? And but this is not doing what most people do. But you're in like the hornet's nest of real estate. Like you're, you know, in a major part of Toronto, the GTA being Mississauga, you got everything working for you. It's all there. He's got to go out there and attack it. That's it. You got to attack it. If you're not, somebody else will, right? And as I said, if I can do it, I can guarantee anybody else can, right? You just got to know how to do it. So, but great question great point on that. But we have an event coming up. So I handed this out. This is a typo. Originally, the event was supposed to be in May, but we actually had to push it to October. And I'll tell you why is that there's a couple speakers that we wanted that couldn't make it in May. So we had actually over 250 people registered for this event. So we had to push them all in October. So there is a typo in that. So I apologize. But we have our event coming up. It's going to be over 450 people at the event, which is amazing. It's Wednesday, October 1st, 9:30 to 4 at the Hilton Embassy Suites. It's different than where we usually held it because the event's going to be twice as big. The other venue couldn't hold it. What are we going to talk about? It's completely new content. We're going to be talking about money myths, common money pitfalls. So again, this kind of sets the stage for the whole program. Budgeting and network tracking, that's just standard stuff that we always go through, but we updated all of our network trackers. There's some really good stuff that's going on in that. Again, a lot of people go to work, they don't even know what their net worth is. They have no idea how much they need to retire. Like, you need to know, like I got here using a GPS. It need to know where I was and where I was going to go, and it wrote me a map to get here, right? Like, that's exactly, it only works. And going to work every day, not knowing exactly what you're worth and how much you need to retire, like you're gonna have a real problem retiring. Like, it would have taken, I probably still wouldn't have got here if I didn't have the GPS, right coordinates, right? This is a big one, cryptocurrency. I'm actually going to the Bitcoin conference in Vegas at the end of May, right? And because again, well, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't buy it, but it's part of the fabric. It's a border block. It's not going anywhere. I don't care what anybody says. This isn't going anywhere, right? So again, I'm about to spend thousands of dollars go to that, take all that content, simplify it in a way that you guys can understand. So we're going to do a huge section on cryptocurrency, and there's a great person we're interviewing up on stage at that, which is going to be great. Understanding the new stock market, absolutely. Like, what are the value propositions of Quest Trade? We're going to do a live trade up on stage so people can realize it's like easier than ordering a pizza, right? We're going to be talking about Wealthsimple, the robo advisors versus financial advisors. We're going to dissect all of that stuff. Under preparing for retirement, again, a full plan on exactly what you'll need to retire, what difference between RIFs and annuities and so forth. We're going to go through that. And our financial advisor analysis, again, this is a really popular section. We didn't want to let it go, but a lot of changes. Again, deferred sale charges are gone now, but a lot of things they've replaced with deferred sale charges to complicate you even more. So here's how the program works. The program, as it says, $649. If you register today, it's $249, and we're just trying to make it simple and easy. So it's a total savings of $400. If you guys are online, you can just scan this, and how it works is this: is that scan the QR code, enter 249 as the code EA, and then you'll receive a confirmation within 48 hours. The program's phenomenal. It'll change your life forever. We've already got 250 people registered. We're actually more than that now, but we had to switch it to October 1st, so that was a bit of a problem there. But that's how the program works. It's simple and easy. People go, what are you guys selling at the program? We're selling nothing, zero, nothing. And people go, why is it so cheap? We're actually doing a ton of filming at that program. We got a ton of new content. We're not selling any coaching programs there. We're not selling anything. So it's not people like, it's a little too good to be true at $249, right?
Slide this way a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
People are like, it's a little too good to be true. Too good to be true at $249. It's not. We're not selling anything there. We're literally trying to film this thing properly. We got a lot of big corporate clients are going to be coming to this event as well. It's a great way for us just to socialize. So we just want a nice full room that doesn't cost us any money. So that's the agenda. There's nothing being sold. There's no like, well, if you like this, well, pay $10,000 to get the whole program. Nothing. We're giving you everything. You get a big workbook with it. It's a phenomenal program, and again, it's October 1st, and it's a bit away. But that price is for today, and then we cancel all those until our next talk. So other than that, just again, Ryan, Charlene, thanks for being so supportive and allowing us to come in. This is great. Always love working with you guys, and I know we're going to do a lot more moving forward too. So there you go.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, happy to help. No
Does
problem.
anybody- You guys have any questions for him or anything? So I attended one of your sessions, like one of your workshops. Do you think, was it fall feature that you spoke
I
at?
think it was fall feature.
Yeah, I think you spoke at our fall feature a few years
Like
back.
September in a movie theater.
Yeah.
A couple of years.
Yeah,
ago.
well, that was amazing.
Yeah, and so I went to your workshop after that, and I walked away from it, kind of like, I have to go to this workshop, went to it, it was incredible, it was
Yeah.
so much information. Can't say I applied a lot of it, because
Sorry.
it's almost too much information, but the few things that I have applied, like even like the whole thing you're saying, like investing throughout the year, as opposed to, I've always been the type of person that did my RSPs at one time closer to the deadline when I knew how much I had left in the bank account.
Yeah.
Hello, realtor.
And
Yeah,
then-
most people do.
2 weeks later, I've watched that $20,000 fall to
Yeah.
nothing because something happens in the market, just like just now.
Yeah.
And now I've started doing it where I'm monthly, putting it away, and it makes such a huge difference.
Sure.
Such a huge difference.
Oh yeah, no, 100% does. No, I appreciate that. No,
Yeah.
and just like whether you go to Richard Robbins, Buffini, whatever it may be, you go to these events to pick up one or two ideas, like overload of information. You can't do it all the scripts and all that stuff. Then you go to it again and again. We had one real estate agent. She goes, "This is a couple of weeks ago. She signed up. She goes, I'm signed up to this one." She goes, "I've been to 7 or 8 of your programs." She goes, "I just take this stuff." She goes, "I shouldn't tell you this." She goes, "I just take it and I steal all your information. I give it to my clients." And she goes, "Just it's like to make me look smart that I know what's going on." So great, do it. Like, no, fine, share it. Like, it's not like we created all this ourselves, right? We take it and try to simplify it. Do it. I'm okay with that, right? Share the ideas, right? So that's what we do. So, but again, thanks again. And I mean that you guys are working for the right company, and these guys are super supportive. They're 10 out of 10, and they're amazing people. So yeah, thank you again for all your support.
Thank
So,
you.
there go.
Are we allowed one question, stupid question?
You're allowed
No
as many as you
stupid
want.
questions.
There's no stupid questions here.
Name one stock I can go and buy to.
I don't ever promote any simple any stock. I just don't like here's the reason why is it all what's for you we're all different. We all have different levels of stress, and how much we will bear in the market, what our retirement plans are and so forth. But if you just take a look at something that's historically good, like the S&P 500 is historic. I'm not saying buy it. We've all said that because I don't want to get sued. But the S&P 500 is always a pretty consistent return, like 11% since 2000 versus 1989, right? So, or something even crazier than that. So the S&P is great. The bank stocks are always good, right? Average return in Royal Bank's been 15% in the last 20 years. But again, that doesn't mean that's going to be the next 20 years. I don't know, right? I want to be clear about that.
What I gathered from and this is now, Christ, we're talking like more than 10 years ago, I attended that seminar, but what I gathered from whatever all the experts, including Kevin on stage, were talking about was basically most advisors can't beat the market itself. So the S&P is representative of the market. And so you buy ETFs that represent the market if you want just to track the market as it goes. And so there are tons of them out there, and I can show you how to find just generic ones that are just the market.
I'll hold you to.
Yes, absolutely. I'll share where I've lost and where I've won in those, right? And then you decide for yourself if that's the right. The reason everyone's making these disclaimers is because you have to decide whether the risk is for you, right? Because there are downs
But
and there are ups.
I have cash.
So are you sorry, can you guys hear me online?
I'm waiting for an
Yes.
opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's been waiting
Hello?
for a year.
So in your shoes, what I would do is I would deploy it. I'd figure out how many months you have, and I would divide that by the number of months that you want to start investing, and I'll set an automatic. This is what I did for myself after going to this thing.
Yeah.
There was something called E-Series funds by TD. So I was already in Waterhouse. There weren't all these other options that were cheap. So TD Waterhouse was the best I could do at the time. Right. And so I called up the people. I'm like, move this much money into my trading account each month. Now I just do it for my kids, the RESP, those things. I pause my RRSP stuff for now, but that's just a personal choice. But you basically have it automatically move over, and then you tell it invest in S&P 500, TSX 60, whatever the things are that you want to invest in. And if you pick baskets of goods that are bigger and broader, there's less volatility. You'll track the market and not market segments that get hit hard. But once you get more sophisticated, you're going to say, "Oh, I think biotech is good this year," and you're going to choose that sector, right? But for now, just get into that
And one
easy
more
stuff.
question, I think, just one word.
I'm here as long as you want.
What is
Yeah.
structure notes? What is your opinion on structured notes?
What do you mean by structured notes?
Structured notes? Those are the things that you give them. It's Wood Gandhi's doing this.
Yeah, I'm not as well versed on that. I would definitely just look at the fees attached to that. That's all, right?
So those are hidden fees.
Yeah.
But I've heard they're very high fees. And
That's the
they're up,
problem. That's why
and they're
that's
upfront.
at the front end loaded. Just be careful of all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because like as Ryan just said, like some of the best returns you're going to get, like historically, doesn't mean the next 20 years. as simple as something as these S&P 500 or Vanguard, low fees, 0.5% liquid. You can sell it any day you want. Like there's always an appetite for it, but again, like you take a look at it, Bitcoin's probably been the best returning stock in the last 15 years. Like nobody wants to talk about it. It's just true. I'm not saying buy it. Okay. I own some, but I'm not saying everybody should, right? Because people get worried about it, and I get they should. They think it's volatile, but I don't think it's going anywhere. But that's why I'm going to this Vegas conference. I want to really dig deep. Because it was interesting. I interviewed one of the top podcasters for Bitcoin in Canada. His name is Jeff Booth. And I had this call with him last May. And he said some wild stuff. He's a huge advocate for Bitcoin. And I like to hear it. I want to let me hear what you have to say. And he goes, how much did you buy your house for? I go, I bought it in 2008 for $400,000. He goes, okay. And he goes, how much Bitcoin would you need back in 2008 to buy your home? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe 5,000 coins. I'm like, I have no 5,000 Bitcoin. He's like, yeah. And he goes, how many would you need today to buy your home? He goes, what's your home worth today? I go, 1.8 million. He goes, how many Bitcoin would you need? I go, I don't know, 18 of them. He goes, so you need way less. I go, yeah. He goes, so let me ask you a question. Your house is worth 400, now it's worth 1.8 million. I go, yeah. He goes, is there more money printed today than there was back in 08? I go, yeah. He goes, so the more money that gets printed actually devalues the dollar. He goes, the more Bitcoin that goes out, it actually increases the value per Bitcoin because there's only a finite amount. He goes, that's what money should do. I was like, shit. Like, I'm like, that's
Same as any asset.
100%,
Any
right?
any asset is going to offset. Like it'll increase as the dollar devalues. Right?
You got it. And so that's why, as I said, is that I'm not saying buy Bitcoin. My whole point being is that find what's right for you. Bitcoin's part of my portfolio because I'm a little younger and I've got some more runway. But it doesn't consume my whole portfolio, not even near it, right? But I know lots of people that it's all Bitcoin. But I can see the argument, but I just don't want to be all in on anything, right?
Did anyone catch Ben Tal's presentation the other day? He had a segment on Bitcoin, and he said, I'm not buying the Bitcoin bubble, which is what we're in now. I'm buying Bitcoin's future, which is as a mature, regulated currency. So he's like, right now it's the Wild West. People are having fun. That's what this is a banker.
Sure.
Really, right? Ben Tal's like, but he said if you you'd have to be, he said something like you can't ignore cryptocurrency as a future. He goes, I think it is the currency of the future. So, but he said, I'm more in on the long run, like on the.
Well, just that's everything, right?
Yeah.
But it's into Bitcoin. Just did the emotional roller coaster. I remember Bitcoin hit 60,000. Everybody thought this is just a year and a half ago, and everybody's like, "Oh, I missed the window." Yeah. Then it dropped to 15. Nobody wanted to buy it. No, and then when it's 106, like a couple months ago, oh, I missed it. Now down to 80, whatever it is, right? Yeah. So it's just doing what everything else does, right? But nobody wants to buy the down, but they think they missed it on the up. So that's why you just like you said.
I bought it on the down twice, like just because
you dollar cost average that, right?
Yeah. Even if it all turns out to be like the reputation as fraudsters and like the dark web, it doesn't matter. They're still gonna buy it when it's cheap, right?
100%.
Like, you know they are, and so yeah. It's just...
There's a question online. Sandeep was trying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I just have so 2-part question. One. Do you guys talk about precious metals because gold has outperformed everything at some point, even Bitcoin? And number 2, as what I do in my portfolio, isn't it better to buy US ETFs than Canadian ETFs?
Well, again, so to each their own. These are all great questions. So at a program, we are going to be talking about metals. It's funny you brought that up. That is a big part of, well, not big part, it's going to be part of the program. So to answer that question, yes. The second part is to buy US ETFs. There's some tax implications. Again, that's where you want to talk to an accountant. But again, that diversification 100% makes sense. But again, to each person their own. And what that asset allocation's got to be different for everybody else, right? There's just no one size fits all for any of it.
And so the other question I had was, so as a real estate agent, I know you said live car free, but so many times I've calculated my costs leasing versus financing, and I've seen that if you get a good rate, like I'm sitting at 0.49 for electric car right now.
Yeah.
I've calculated costs over a 10-year period, and I swear it's almost very close. And I don't have to do any repair because I'm returning my car every 2 to 3 years, and I don't take the depreciation cost.
Yeah. So again, great question, because in our program we actually break it down. What buying a new car versus leasing a car versus buying a used car and carrying them for, maturity, especially the used car, keep it the next 5 years. So the first 5 years, it's almost a break even between all three, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you still win with the used car if you get the used car at the right price, right? And again, I'm not talking about a 50% discount. But again, there's always going to be exceptions to the rules and how many people can write off on kilometers and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a sliding scale kind of
Well,
analysis.
we're putting 50,000. I'm putting anywhere from 50 to. I'm almost putting like 50,000 a year, right? So when I guess with the lease, we can buy the kilometers ahead of time, and then I don't know. I just see that over a 10-year period, like the cost of tires, brakes has gone up, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of comes down to, and then
Yeah.
you get
So,
yeah.
and you're making good points here. I think historically, again, the way that we factor it in, because you put a million scenario, you go 50,000 over kilometers and you're buying those extra kilometers. We try not to do that. Again, we try to just simplify it. Like imagine you drive your 25,000 kilometers a year. You don't go over the kilometers that you've paid for and so forth. If you average it out, it kind of almost breaks even between all three. Between the lease and new car, it certainly does. Especially when you can get all the extra write-offs on a leased car, which is amazing because there's more benefit to that. A leased car, you get the best tax write-offs. That versus financing a new car or buying a used. However, that's not in question. It's just after that first 5 years and you've paid for the car and so forth, that used car, once it's paid off, that next 5 years really becomes the gravy part of it, right?
Sorry, last question. So of course, S&P's done anywhere from 7 to 8% over a certain, many, many years. As the market is down, would you recommend, I always invest through my RSPs, right? Because, for the tax implications and whatnot. Yeah. Would you recommend dumping everything, like a big amount into the S&P when it's down? I know we might not have bottomed, but definitely, would you recommend that, or would you still recommend dollar cost averaging over?
I'm always dollar cost averaging, but again, there's no one size fits all, right? Again, I can't emphasize enough. We provide because nobody knows. Like, it would just be me guessing no more than you would. But again, I go based on. Listen, I'm 48. I don't know how old you are. It's not my business to know. So
38.
I've got less. What's up? Sorry.
38. I'm 38.
Yeah, so you got more runway than I do. For me, my biggest risk is my business, right? That's what I do. I've done well. Like again, I'm in a place where I don't need to do this anymore, which is fantastic. However, again, I'm in preservation mode for my stock, so I've taken no big chances. I'm dollar cost averaging all this stuff and just buying safe stuff. My risk has always been my business, right? So that's what it is. So yeah.
Sorry, absolute last question. What is your opinion on silver?
It's such a hard question, man. I've been pushed on silver for like decades now. I don't own any. What's that?
Same here. Yeah, I pushed silver a lot too.
Yeah, I don't own any myself, but it doesn't mean that anybody else. So maybe that's the answer that I'll say. I'm not invested in it myself. How about that?
Okay. Well, what do you think? What do you think? What's your opinion on it? The market is certainly there. All the electric cars, the batteries, everything's getting used up with silver, right? And it's at such a. I know I don't want financial advice. I'm just saying, what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, again, as I said, just like anything else, if I was to participate, it would just be a small part of my portfolio. Like, yeah, with regards to precious metals such as that, there's going to be just an increasing demand of it based on just the way our infrastructure is growing and the way we're going to be using energy and so forth. But again, that's as far as I'll take it because I'm not invested in it myself. That's where I'd leave it.
Sounds good. Thank you for answering all my questions.
No problem. Thanks. Great questions.
Kevin, you mentioned the word our course a couple times during your presentation.
Yeah.
You have a course.
Yeah, this course.
That's the course.
That's the course.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the course. Yeah.
All right.
Gotcha.
So going back to like that DVD you guys had, so there isn't like you guys don't have like a continuing education, like you said you got a workbook. So this thing is more of like a training session.
You got it.
It's not so much like a hype day.
No, it's a boot camp.
Yeah,
like
awesome.
Better part I call it a boot camp more than anything. Like you said,
it was work. It was intensive.
Yeah.
Like the book is like this thick that we got the last. You guys still do the physical book?
Yeah, we're gonna give the physical book the whole 9 yards, right? So again, but with what we want to do, again, we bombard. Like we have fun, we make it entertaining, right? But we're not high fiving at the program or anything like that. It's like it's time to get to work.
The 500,000 students, what districts or schools, are you guys getting more into public schools, the Catholic school district? I'm just curious because honestly, that is my biggest pet peeve, and I'm really passionate about that. I know zero, like my financial IQ is if it can be a -%, that's where I'm at. But yeah, I feel like there's no push on that. There's no
You want me to
because
give you
it's I think
you want the
it's
truth?
designed.
You
Yeah,
want the-
yeah.
Can you handle the truth? Like,
Yeah,
whatever.
come on.
Here's the truth of it, right? Is that I helped build a $600 million company. That is not easy to do. This is way harder. Like I'm telling you. So the gentleman that runs our education department is chief of staff for Jim Flaherty. His name's Kevin McCarthy. He lives in Burlington. So this gentleman has a lot of good contacts, especially the fact that a lot of our provinces are conservative, right? So again, we're not pushing one agenda versus the other. I want to be clear about that. But again, so we have the problem. This is all public information. So Alberta makes it mandatory for every grade 10 student have to go through the program, which is amazing. So they pay us over.
I figured it out
They pay us over $1 million a year just to do that, right? So, but again, people are like, oh, that's so much money. You got to call the superintendents, and you got to go to the principal, then you got to go. It's not like they say here it is and they use it. No, you got to call the superintendents, and you got to call the principal, then you got to call the teachers, then you got to make sure the teachers use it properly, then you got to make sure it's executed on, and utilization rates are there. We have a massive team to make sure that $1 billion is spent properly, right? We have a provincial contract with PI, Manitoba, and a couple others. Here in Ontario, there was $6 million earmarked for us in one of the budgets. It wasn't really earmarked, but supposed to. But then the bureaucrats took hold of the RFP, right? And so we work with 20 school boards with phenomenal, like Toronto Catholic, York Catholic, Chisholm. But then the bureaucrats got a hold of the RFP. It was an absolute fucking disaster. And with what they were asking us to use, and I'm not going to get into the politics of what it was, but it was ridiculous. Like if you saw what it was and what they wanted us to do to our program to make it, I'm not going to say the word without saying the word.
Inclusive or something.
Yeah, I was like, no, this is a math program
for everyone.
So remember, I told you have the right to fire people out of your life. We didn't even bid on the project, right? And then on top of that is because it's a math program. It's really what it is, right? So we don't disengage or engage anything in particular. It's we got all different groups.
There's nothing cultural in there.
No, it's simple. But and the program's ranked at 9.2 out of 10 by students right now. That's what they grade the program. Yeah. So we track all that, right? They have to grade it at the end so we can know what to make better. We're not going to compromise the whole program based on like 3 bureaucrats in this province. Yeah. So as I said, it's you realize how governments do work, right? You have a government leader that says, okay, this is the mandates. Then the ministers then say, this is how we're going to execute on. They execute the mandate. Then the staffers under the minister, what they do is, unfortunately, they're younger. They're usually university graduates, just recent, right? And then they say, okay, this is the mandate of the minister. The bureaucrats will then say, okay, that's not how we do it. We do it this way. And then they bully the officials. And then really the bureaucrats run the direction of everything. Unless we have the odd, strong minister that says screw it to everybody, right? And out west, they tend to have very strong ministers, right? Yeah. They're like, nope, we're doing it. I don't care what you say. Sign it. We're getting it done. And that's it, right? Here, not so much. Right? So, but we're slowly get there.
When you guys receive that pushback, like you said, you're in a position like, okay, I can fire people from my life. Is your competition also trying to get into school?
Well, they allocated 1.6 million a year, and they only spent 300,000 of it. So, like again, it's not like there's nobody else doing it. So, Lecce went out and said we're doing financial literacy. It was extremely popular in the news. Like if you saw that but since then there's been 3 education ministers. Right, 4 in the last year, and you're just dealing with that.
Do you guys feel like you have a voice then in that like realm, and do you guys want to push to be more vocal, maybe educate the public, and or do you guys not want to get into that muddled like pointing the fingers like, hey?
I'm not gonna pointing fight. I've sat in meetings. Last one I see an interesting one. Look at student loans. Okay, student loan default rates in Canada are 13%, right? Versus credit card default at 2.25%, versus mortgage default at 0.5%. So you look at it, $700 million of student loans have been defaulted on in the last 3 years. So we've gone to the officials, said, listen, I've got 3 kids. Before I registered them in hockey, I had to watch a 2-hour video on how to be a parent in an arena before I could register my kids in the hockey. Like, don't punch the coach. Like, that was one of the things they talked about, right? But we're allowing 18-year-olds to borrow tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money, right? With no education whatsoever. Like, we give them $15,000 for student loans, but they need $10,000, right? What do you think they do with the other $5,000? They go to Mexico. Right, they don't
buy that weed from that door-to-door sales.
You got it, right? But then I sat there and go, but why do you think default rates? And I've sat there with the officials, which is probably why we haven't got the deal, because you get to a point where it's so frustrating. I said, let's add our course, just a 2-hour course into the program, right? And let's add $20 to every student loan. That's it. That's it. And all of a sudden they go, if we can affect default rates even by 5 or 10% and no tap, like what's a $10,000 student loan to $10,020? Like we're talking nothing, right? And if we can affect default loans by just even a quarter, like a 4 or 5% by default, like lowering them, that's money back in the taxpayer wallet. But then the bureaucrats like, no, we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. And I go, why do you think default rates are higher for student loans than any other loan out there, like for credit cards and so forth? I'll tell you why. Because I tell them, like, because none of you guys get fired. I said, if mortgage, like I go, if mortgage default rates went to 13% with TD, people would be fired.
Yeah.
Right? For them, there's no consequences whatsoever. It's disgusting.
But that's what I mean. You're having those conversations with those guys.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, are you guys maybe being more activists? That's the way I was saying, and going to like news outlets, this and that, and like saying these points to the public and letting the public now make the decision.
You can. I don't know if I want to bring a sword fight
That's
to that,
what I'm
like
saying,
that, because you know, because here's the problem: is that their rebuttal will be like, "We're going to do it," which they have tried to do it, but the problem is when they try to do it, then all of a sudden it's like money never stands. Student loans change like year by year, like endless rule change, right? So they create a course, but then it becomes dated and they don't update the course and then it becomes a waste because like money just doesn't stand still. You got to constantly update this thing every month, right? So yeah. So anyways, I don't know what we're gonna do. We're still working on it. So
For some of us that want to increase our financial literacy or say the foundation of preparing us for a better experience at your course, what can we read or what can we say jump into today to help us scale as we kind of
the best money book I've ever read is Money Mastery of the Game by Tony Robbins. Like that's the best money book ever.
And money what?
Money Mastery of the Game. It's unbelievable.
Money
Mastery of the Game.
Mastery.
The game. I think it's what it is. By
Have
Tony
you heard
Robbins.
Secrets of the Millionaire Mind? They talk about a
Yeah.
financial blueprint.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that I read a few years ago and rattled me.
Yeah, it's a
And I
great book.
realized that's what happened from our past. We're a product of our environment.
Yeah.
And growing up with, you know, a dad who was an immigrant and factory workers, it was just,
Yeah.
Right home?
Can't remember who read it, but Money Mastery of the Game.
I
is a
have
great
it.
book.
I have it.
Rich Dad
I'll
Poor Dad
bring
is
it
another
in.
great one.
I'll send it to the group on the water cooler.
Can I sign up my
Oh,
voice?
she's on.
Yeah, of course, 100%.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I
You should. Like I've got 3 kids myself, 19, 18, 16. They will take them.
Okay, so for that deal that you're giving us, I could sign them up as well.
Yeah, no problem. Great. But that's today, just so you know, that's where the special ends, and then you're good to go.
Love it.
Ryan, you're a good
I
man.
just realized I'm gonna sign my wife up.
What's that?
I'm gonna sign my
Yeah,
wife up.
we'll
She
talk.
asked about it.
Great.